Why did you decide to take on a new challenge by leaving Salesforce and becoming CTO of cloud computing at BMC Software?
A couple of reasons. One was I'd been at Salesforce for 4.5, 5 years. I had watched the company, grow from, I was like 1,000 people when I joined to about 6,000, when I left. Literally watching the term cloud computing being born, watching the entire posture of the industry changing, where when I first got there, nobody wanted to, we were struggling, we were still evangelizing, to, I'd say the inflection point around 2008, where all of a sudden the phone calls went from us calling CIOs to the CIOs calling us, asking us to come in and talk about cloud computing. And it was really represented the kind of shift in the industry, the maturation of these concepts, and then having them, of course, hit mass scale inside of the enterprise. And watching that was unbelievable. And the company as a whole, I felt like I had witnessed something amazing. I had witnessed kind of this big, huge transformation. And so I started thinking about, like, what's next, What happens now that people have accepted the term cloud computing? They've accepted it as an option for them. Well, what's next, right? Most companies are consuming maybe 1 or 2 cloud services, not hundreds yet, right? Most organizations still have massive on-premise installations. I started to think, how is IT going to change as a whole, as I started getting out there and talking with CIOs and started working in the marketing organization focusing on CIOs? I started thinking, how is this going to change? How is IT going to change as a whole? And I started to think about, wow, managing, if you live in a world where now all of a sudden you're going from kind of, 80% on-prem to 20 cloud, and then you flip those two things, where now you're 80% of your cloud services and maybe you have a private cloud or a managed services component to your IT. Well, management of all this stuff is completely changed, right? Things like identity and integration, all of a sudden, which were kind of nice to haves, now become gotta haves, right? Management of the services, of where information goes and how these services come up and down, and incident and the trouble aspect of it, and SLA management. It's like all this stuff that you had to worry about, but you didn't really have a third party or another person involved in making sure those things were working, right? Now all of a sudden you're managing multiple vendors. You're managing vendors not just by buying their software, but they're actually providing this service for you. So now you're managing, it's an ongoing management that has to happen. And so I felt like I wanted to move on to kind of what I believe is the next challenge of cloud computing. And a lot of this is about taking the cloud computing paradigm, or taking this process and kind of taking it to the next leg of the process. And I really thought that the management aspect of it, or kind of how it changes IT, was something that I wanted to focus on. It was kind of like the next problem I was observing in the industry. And when this problem is solved, this is kind of like that last problem of adoption. Once this problem gets solved, in one way or another, it gets solved, that'll kind of be like that last step of adoption, that last barrier to adoption for this kind of new way of conducting, of basically IT operations and providing value to the business from a technology standpoint. So, yeah, that was my main driver for the move.